We're in this crazy seesawing situation here where it's like, we get a Top Gun Maverick, and it's like, oh, every film should be a legacy sequel. Just keep making legacy sequels. Screw other movies. But then it's like, Jurassic World Dominion. It's like, okay, stop making legacy sequels. There should never be another legacy sequel. And then it's like, wait, where's the seesaw going? Then we get a Cobra Kai, even though I know I'm like 4 or 5 years late for Cobra Kai. But I've just come upon Cobra Kai, so it feels like it's new to me, and it's, once again, just a perfect legacy sequel. They're either just like perfect or just unwatchable. It's kind of crazy. So I just binged all of season 1 of Cobra Kai, and I thought it was spectacular. It was so much fun. It's a perfect legacy sequel. It's so good. It does everything so right. There are so many beautiful moments and scenes throughout it that are so just clearly like, it's like the thing, but now the kid, he's now the master. But I feel like focusing on the villain, focusing on Johnny so heavily and making us feel so much sympathy towards him and so much empathy and just like following him way more. And I think the actor for Johnny is way better than Daniel. And not to throw any shade, everyone's really, really great. It's great to have everyone back. But just like straight away, I'm just way more on his side. I love the idea that he's downtrodden. He's been an awful father. Like, he's just a really complex, interesting character. I really like taking the villain and turning him to this really complex, morally grey character who's done some awful things. He's kind of done some really bad things all over the place. And straight away, he's just being super racist to like the main new kid and all these kind of little things where you're just like, oh, this guy's just an absolute prick. But then the way they slowly make us really care for him, we get some flashbacks of his childhood, but just the way he plays it, I just find it so sympathetic. I find it so fascinating and interesting. And the whole time he starts building up Cobra Kai, the enemy, the evil dojo, and he's rebirthing it in this interesting way where he is being very old school and mean and brutish, and he's saying very non-modern things, and he's being very like old school rough macho man. But there's this part of you that knows surely it's going to change, surely it's going to twist, and he's going to learn from his mistakes. He's going to learn he's becoming his sensei. He's becoming the true villain, and he doesn't want to be, because it starts off so like kind of heroically, like he sees the kid getting beaten up and he defends him, and it's all this kind of stuff, and it's all building. And then in that final scene where his new apprentice dojo karate warrior kid starts kind of acting out and being him without him pushing him, because he's already pushed him throughout the whole season. It's like such an interesting way to end the season, where it's like, I didn't get that moment with him and Daniel where he went, oh, actually, I've got to learn the wax on, wax off. I can't, do it this way anymore. And the season ends with him winning the big fight, winning the trophy. And it's so melancholy. Like, it's so kind of like a sad, quiet moment, even though everyone's cheering and screaming. And it's just a brilliant little arc we go on. And it didn't end the way I thought it would. I know there's more seasons. I'm going to binge it straight after this video. But it was a really interesting way to end it, because I really did think we kind of hit a point earlier and it would change the character earlier. Whereas I really like this kind of way it ends with him winning and he got everything he wanted, all the things worked out, but his son still hates him, this and that. I don't know. I found it really, really compelling. This, as one of my friends messaged me, this show has no right to be this good. It is truly wondrous. What really, truly works is Johnny, the villain of the first movie. He is so spectacularly done. It's a marvel. Like, how did they handle his character so well? How did they craft him into such an empathetic, sympathetic, other-athetic character? Other word, pathos, things, emotion. It does all the things, and it's just so good at it. It's so fascinating watching the villain's story from his perspective. And I think the moment that really just blew me away was when he just sits his student down and he's just like, hey, dude, Daniel LaRusso, he sucked, dude. He bloody sucked. Like, let me just explain what happened from my perspective. And from his perspective, Daniel just keeps coming at him, and it's just, I don't know, it's just so fascinating. It really reminded me of The Last Duel, a really fantastic film with Matt Damon just looking so ugly. Ben Affleck's in it. He looks very ugly too. Adam Driver's in it too. He's not looking ugly. He's very handsome in that movie. It's a wild movie, just makeup wise. Hair and makeup wise, just fantastic. Why did I mention that film? Oh, that's right. So that film is from 3 different people's perspectives, and we see each event, we see like a bunch of different events, but like each time we see it from one person's perspective, and things change and they shift, and you suddenly start realizing, hey, wait, this guy said it went like this, but actually went like this. Then the third time you're like, what the hell even happened? Like, these 2 guys don't even know what's going on. Or maybe they do. It's just people's perspectives change, and I find that really, really fascinating. And this does the same. Like, it's just really interesting. Like, you see it from Johnny's perspective, and he's not the villain, because no one's the villain of their own story. And it's just so cool to take someone from a cliche black and white 80s action film where there is a very clear hero and villain. The bully, the classic 80s bully. He's so classic 80s. He's on a motorbike and he pushes the other guy down a hill. He doesn't, see that in his flashbacks of like, oh, woe is me moments. But of course he doesn't. But it's just really fascinating and interesting. And it just creates this new character, essentially, where you're like, oh man, I just saw you from one perspective, one angle. And then you find out all the stuff from home and this and that and all these things that make him a human, not a villain, a bully from an 80s movie. And it's exceptional. It's so cool. It's such a clever, interesting angle to take. It takes it from a Jurassic World Dominion and it makes it a Top Gun Maverick of legacy sequels. Like, it really does something quite exceptional, quite interesting, and really thought-provoking. And because of this, and just the way he's been presented as downtrodden and broken, all these times where he's like, I know I've been a shitty father, but I can do better now. You're not sitting there thinking, well, no, 16 years, not good enough. You're like, give him a chance. He's trying. Whereas, from Daniel's perspective, he doesn't get that second chance. He doesn't deserve a do-over. Whereas because we're following him, he does. And I just find that really, really compelling and really interesting. And honestly, it's kind of ballsy. Like, I feel like now I'm saying this 5 years after the show's come out. Everyone's like, oh yeah, this is old news, them doing this to this character. But for me, it's just like, it's kind of like revolutionary. It's just like, I want to see this treatment for all 80s villains. Like, this is so cool. It's so just fascinating and mind-blowing. I think something that really, really works for me in this series is the fact that it kind of embraces that old school 80s kind of vibe. Like, not just with a bunch of kids being really violent and punching each other and like getting justice in violent ways, but there's also this like really kind of melodramatic soap opera teen drama stuff going on. Like, there's a scene in the first movie in Karate Kid, and I just remember watching it, and he like walks in and he sees them dancing. He's like, oh, my girlfriend, she's dancing with her ex-boyfriend. That must mean they're back together. Oh no, I better run away before I see her punch him. And like, I'm just like, oh. But then I'm like, oh, it's 80s. This inspired the other 100,000 films I've seen do this that annoy me. It was part of the, it's of that time. Like, you got to give us, you got to let those things pass. But this show, embracing those things, I think I almost found it more endearing when this show did it like about 7 times. A character would see something and be like, well, I could go up and ask about this, but I'll just presume the worst. And the drama. Ooh. The teen angst, it's on. It's all things where you could solve it with a post-it note. You could solve it if you just went up and asked a single question and just went, hey, what's this? Are you cheating on me? Oh, you're not? You're training him on this and that. Everything's fine then. But no, they don't do that. They do a classic 80s film thing where they just go, I'm gonna misread this situation and leave before I notice the thing that would make me go, actually, my girlfriend does love me. And I kind of love how it embraced that. Like, this show isn't trying to be The Wire or Game of Thrones or anything like that. Like, it's not trying to be high concept or anything like that. It's just staying very simple. But while doing that, I found it incredibly complex and incredibly fascinating the way we're following the villain and our old hero, who is so charismatic and so much fun, like him flirting and on the dates and all the stuff in Karate Kid, him training and learning inner peace and all these things through the training, these really kind of majestic, kind of quiet training sequences and all these things, and having fun with them and this and that, but it's like a peaceful way of karate. It's so beautiful. But in this, he's a flashy, rich car salesman, and he's like, every time you buy a car, you get a bonsai tree. And I'm like, what a disgrace to the legacy. Like this. And it was just such a funny, insane way to kind of make me dislike him. Like, Daniel's got everything he liked. He's got a beautiful house, a beautiful job. He's expensive and rich, and I just don't like him. I like the character that sucks, and he needs to become better. And I just found that such an interesting way to do this legacy sequel. I just found it so compelling. And then slowly things start happening with the son, and the son's like, I better go and screw with my dad by meeting Daniel LaRusso. And I'm like, oh my God. And then Daniel LaRusso, he's going to train him. Oh my God. And you can see it all working out. And it's so overly complicated and so just teen drama where everyone's knowing everyone, but everyone's lying to everyone and everyone's doing this and that. And I just think it stayed so true to that vibe that I got, especially in that first half of Karate Kid before it kind of went full just training. The two main themes that I really found really well done and like really interesting in Karate Kid was the surrogate father and son situation, and then the whole bullying kind of kid situation and how they try and like take back command, take back control, and how kids do that in that kind of intense high school situation. And this show does it really, really well. Once again, we have a bunch of different father-son, surrogate father-son situations going on. We have actual father and son stuff. And we also have the father-daughter one, mixing it all together. And it's just really great how it just feels like it's just honoring this film. I almost feel cheated that I hadn't watched Karate Kid as a kid, because I would have absolutely loved it. I don't know why I didn't see it. But like, if I had watched that film like 10, 15 times over my whole life and I watched Cobra Kai, I think it would have killed me. It would have just been so spectacular, so amazing. Because I essentially watched Karate Kid 1 and 2, then straight away into Cobra Kai, and immediately overwhelmed by how clever it is, how good it is. I love seeing all the situations and all the training kind of things, but like from Johnny's perspective, like the kid's doing the windows, he's like, is there a way I should do this or whatever? He's like, I don't give a shit. I'm like, it's just perfect. Like, I love that kind of like flip on the whole thing, just following the guy who's just more angry and macho about it all. It really reminds me of Casino Royale, where James Bond's like, shaken or stirred, do I look like I give a damn? And it's like, I like this little twist on the classic lines and situations. But then we also do get Daniel teaching him, and I like that they didn't spend too much time. It's just a fun little montage, and then when you get to the I've learned all my training, he just does a classic It's a Legacy sequel thing where he's like, haha, I love this bit. And I'm like, I love that bit too. It was the best bit of the film. I just love how it balances all that fan service stuff, all that kind of overly fan service stuff, but does it in a way where I feel like it's enriching this story and these characters, and it feels so much more complex in a way where it's not just evil Cobra Kai versus Mr. Miyagi and Daniel and the righteous, awesome people. And it's like, well, this macho way about it definitely, you know, has its huge negatives, especially towards the end where he doesn't really change in any way. But you can kind of see where he's coming from in a really fascinating, interesting way. And Daniel is kind of a bit more uninteresting, even though as it progresses, he also gets a little bit more interesting. But I am kind of more keen always to see Johnny's situation and all his kind of hijinks throughout it, which I just found really bold to be like, you're going to like the villain of Karate Kid more than Daniel. Like, that's just how it's going to be. And I do wonder if I'm the only one, but I presume not, because we do get way more time with him. And it was kind of heartbreaking in that final fight, in that final big karate tournament, that he won, but it felt like a loss. And I just feel like that's just... it's just masterful. Is it just me, or did everyone else get super Better Call Saul ad vibes from Daniel LaRusso's ads, where he's like, "Blah, blah, I'm gonna chop the prices down, blah, wah!" Bonsai tree. And I'm just like, this is the Karate Kid Better Call Saul crossover advertising video. I love it! I think for the most part, all the characters I kind of was like, yeah, okay, I see where this is going with this character. Oh, I see where this is going with this character. They're going to come to the dojo. They're this and this. This is... the one that really, really surprised me was Hawk. Like that moment where he gets teased just one too many times by Johnny and he leaves. I'm just like, oh, that just... now Johnny, that was like a step too far, because I was finding him very, very funny because he's doing so much wrong, but he's trying so hard, and I found him so sympathetic that I'm enjoying him as a character so much right now. But that was like a step too far. I'm like, oh, he's fallen back into that kind of villainous kind of mode. But then when Hawk comes back, he's got the hair. You don't even notice the lip scar anymore. And he becomes this really empowered character. He's getting everything he wants. But then it turns and he's the one that mirrors doing the illegal kick in the fight. Also, I love how just like at times you forget there's a Legacy sequel. And then you're like, oh, we're at the big tournament. Someone has to be the illegal kicker person and get disqualified. Of course it's going to be Hawk. That's so brutal and horrifying, because it's like I've enjoyed his kind of empowerment and him taking back being bullied and, you know, getting the power back, even though they're going in a very aggressive way. It's worked for him. He's enjoying life more. He's not getting bullied and picked on. And it is very cheesy and kind of like simplistic in a way where it's like he's got the girl and this and that. But I think that's what works so well about this story, is it doesn't try and do too much or say too much. It's telling this very tight, interesting story. And then it comes and backfires, and Hawk like spits in his face saying like, well, I'm not going to be a pussy. I'm not going to be a coward. And that's when you start realizing, oh no, it's all gone wrong. Cobra Kai is just, it's Cobra Kai again. Like, I don't know. It's like that snake eating itself or whatever, or a cobra eating itself. But yeah, overall, just amazing. I'm going to stop just saying how amazing it is, and I'm going to watch season 2 now. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I would love to know what everyone thought of Cobra Kai Season 1.